what we got is this particular car, when I replaced the fender, a matter of fact, you know what? Instead of telling you about it, let's go check it out.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
So what we got here, let's get in that paint booth. Let me open that door because I already got it ready to paint. What we got here is a 06 Mercedes-Benz. Now, I don't know how many times I've repaired this car, many times, but here's a repair we just did on it where I don't even know how he got that dent, but besides that, what we did is we replaced that fender right there. Now, he ordered this fender online, he got it up in New York. We got the fender, it had some surface rust on the bottom. I told him, hey, you know, this is from the East Coast, blah, blah, blah. And this is one of those guys that never listens to a thing you tell him. You can tell him the sky is blue, and he is going to argue with you. You can tell him that the grass is green, and he is going to argue with you. You can tell him that that air filter is for separating water and oil out of your airline, and he will argue with you. So some people are just so hard-headed, it doesn't matter what you tell them or how you tell them to fix it or what you tell them to get, they don't do it. As a matter of fact, they actually do the opposite. Kind of like this fender right here when he told me it was from New York, and I said, well, there's going to be surface rust on it when you get it because it's an 06 fender. And he said, no, it's not. It's a factory fender. And I said, what does that have to do with anything? It's from the factory. It's OEM original. Anyway, back to the situation. If you notice on this car right here, this car is charcoal gray. And I have to paint this fender. Let's get over here. I got to paint this fender, and then I got to blend the paint into that top of that door, into the hood. I got to paint this section right here, and possibly blend this corner. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm showing you the corner into that fender and then over and then clear coat the whole front end of the car and the door. Basically because of this fender right here. But take a good look at that fender. That fender's white. And to get this to match properly, this is what this is all about. We want to get that paint, when we blend it, we don't want to see two different colors. Now if I leave that white and I paint that fender, it might have a lighter shade of gray, bam, than the rest of the car. And the reason for that is because when you have three different colors, do you see what we're talking about? We got gray primer here, we got gray primer there, we got bright white, and we're gonna put another color on top of all that. The colors start to get really mixy, matchy, and wish-washy. So to make sure that this thing is going to be one solid color, and when we blend it in, it's all going to flow together. Do you see what I'm doing here? We are going to go ahead and apply a coat of Epoxy Sealer. Remember that word, people, sealer. Anytime you see a word that says epoxy, it's a non-sandable item. You can't sand it. You can sand it, but it will not sand properly, if you understand what I'm saying. So we're going to go ahead and apply a full wet coat of Epoxy Sealer on that, and then what that's going to do, that's going to make that fender one solid color. But what we're trying to do is balance everything out, so when I do blend the paint, it's all going to be uniform and normal. And the only way to do that is to take this super bright white fender and put a coat of Epoxy Primer on top of that, which will make this fender a solid color. So what I just got done doing here is mixing up some epoxy primer. And once again, every time I make a video and it has epoxy primer, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you that epoxy primer is not a sandable primer. Epoxy primer is a sealer. I don't know why they put primer on there, probably because anything that you cover with a inner coat surface is a primer. But it is not a primer that you can sand. This is a sealer, meaning it's a unsandable surface. And when you sand it, what happens is your paper gets gummed up, whether it's wet or dry, and it leaves deep gouges and scratches in it because it's a gummy surface. It's not a hard sandable surface. It is a sealer. Remember that. So we got our sealer mixed up, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get ready to spray that on there. And I'm also going to go ahead, if you saw the hood, I'll go ahead and spot seal that area, just since I got it mixed up, to make sure we don't have any blistering or bleed back around the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and get my gun ready. I just got done painting some black paint in that and cleaned it out. So let's go ahead and get our epoxy primer. When you see me using this spray gun, let me tell you something. You can use all the HVL spray guns you want. You can get the $1,000 HVL spray gun, or you can get the, cheapest one over at Harbor Freight. But let me tell you, if you own a Binks number 7, and anybody that's ever sprayed with a Binks number 7 will agree, they are the best spray gun ever made, and all over for anything. I can spray anything out of this spray gun. I don't need 2 spray guns. I don't need one for primer and one for clear and one for paint and all this other shit. Everything that I do, 99% of everything I do is with this spray gun right here. Now I do got other spray guns. Alright, you can see that right there. But I use the number 7 for everything I do. Call me old school. I don't give a shit. Call it antique or whatever you want to call it. But I'm telling you now that the corporations and the legislations have fooled you into believing that HVLP is the best. And I will put my spray gun up to any HVLP gun, and I guarantee you get the same or better results using what I got. Let's get in there and get some sealer on that fender. Saw there, I went ahead and put one wet coat on it. I didn't put a real super thick coat, but what I did is I went ahead and added 10% reducer to my epoxy sealer so it would flow out and I won't have any orange peel. That's very important to do. I want you to pay attention to the way that I take this off to apply that. I went ahead and taped off the surrounding of the fender because I don't want to get any sealer on that door or on that hood. And you can kind of see where it oversprayed on the paper. And if I wouldn't have had that paper on there to block that off, we would have got some sealer on the edges of it. And then I would have had to paint out even farther to blend what I needed. So that's a real important situation too. So if you look at it, you can basically see what we're talking about here. Now that that fender is one solid color instead of 2 different colors, and then we got this color which makes 3, it's going to be a lot easier to blend that paint. It's going to look more uniform. We're not going to have to worry about bleed back. We're not going to have to worry about this might be a little lighter down here, and why is that door darker than this lower fender, this, that, and the other. It's all going to work out and look great. So always remember, if you do something like this, if you're going to replace the fender, it's a different color than the car that you're working on, it's always important to put a coat of epoxy sealer on that item if you're going to blend it, or if it's a item that sits up next to another panel. It's really important to make sure that you completely cover that with a coat of sealer. Now, if it would have just been the bumper cover only, we probably wouldn't have done this. If that was a red bumper cover, I probably would have just went ahead and painted it and then bolted it on, because you only have this much. Do you see what I'm saying? That's really a blendable situation, and to that eye action there, you wouldn't even know the difference in color. But this is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete. I hope you enjoyed this video. I gave you a tech tip about painting parts, let's say, and doing the right job. Now over here, what I did, I went ahead and put a coat of sealer on this area here, and the only reason I did that is so I don't have any bleed black or blistering around the edges where I had it primed. So we're going to go ahead and paint this, and hopefully it's going to turn out really nice, and it will last more than 2 months for the owner this time. Well, we got the S-Class Mercedes Benz painted. Let's take a look at that fender and see how it came out. And you can see, just by the looks of it, you can see how the paint has really blended in and has matched to the perfection that we wanted. And that's because we used our epoxy primer as a base before we put the paint on top of it. It really came out nice. I'm happy with it. And that's just a little tech tip from my friend Pete straight to you, that by using epoxy primer on used parts, when you got 2-3 different colors mix matching in with each other, it's going to really cut down on your supply cost. You're not going to have to put as much paint on it. You won't have to put as much clear, this, that, and the other, and everything else. And it will all match up and work out great in the end. So always remember that epoxy primer is not a sandable primer, it is a sealer, and what you saw me do here is what it's basically used for. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete, over here at DIY Auto School, showing you and telling you how to do things right, and hopefully you're learning something from these videos. We are done with the Mercedes for now. Let's hope that he won't be back for a long time. I've fixed that car possibly 10 or 12 times already since he's owned the car since 2006. And I'm actually getting tired of looking at it. I really, really am.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.